Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Indiana Congresswoman Susan Brooks, the former Speaker of the Iowa House of Representatives, Craig Paulson, your Governor, Terry Branstad, and the next President and First Lady of the United States of America, Governor Chris and Mary Pat Christie. One, two.
Hello, it's great to be here. I'm Congresswoman Susan Brooks, and I'm from the great state of Indiana. And I drove over from just north of Indianapolis, Carmel, Indiana, drove through Illinois, got to Iowa, took a picture of your beautiful sign saying I was in Iowa, got it pushed out to all my friends saying I was in Iowa, because it's just so exciting. I've never been to a caucus in Iowa. I've not seen this excitement, and it is exciting to be here. And the reason I am here is because I hope to fire you up, and I hope that you get out and talk to all your friends, because tomorrow night is really the beginning of this election. I have known Chris Christie since 2002. We were United States attorneys together. I represented the Southern District of Indiana. He represented the entire state of New Jersey. We came together as a country after 9/11 as U.S. attorneys to work to keep this country safe. And I watched Chris Christie at the very first U.S. attorney gathering. Attorney General Ashcroft chose Chris Christie to speak to all of us from around the country and to say, this war against terrorism, this going after the terrorists, and most importantly, preventing it from ever happening again, is up to us. And I watched Chris Christie tell the story about 9/11 and where he was and where Mary Pat was and what it meant to their state and what it meant to New York and the rest of the country. And he pulled us in and he led us. He led us to care whether, in Indiana, we weren't as concerned about terrorism at that time, but we knew we had to fight together, work with law enforcement intelligence to keep this country safe. I saw him lead. I saw him lead on public corruption cases. He was one of the top U.S. attorneys in the country. And then, the night that he won governor of New Jersey, I was sitting in my living room in Indiana in a Mendham, New Jersey t-shirt he and Mary Pat had given me many years before, cheering him on because he turned around the incredible difficulties that New Jersey was having as a state, and he was going to lead. He beat an incumbent Democrat governor, and he is leading, he has led in a blue state, and he got reelected. He balanced a budget, he cut taxes, he took care of those citizens after horrific Hurricane Sandy, and I've been so proud of his leadership. So proud to call he and Mary Pat friends. I don't know where my husband is and my friend, but we drove over today because we wanted to make sure you knew, coming from DC, we need a leader like Chris Christie. We need a leader to lead us. All of your representatives, all of the senators from the country, he is that leader, and that's why I'm here. I'm fired up for you to support Chris Christie. And with that, I'd like to bring your speaker, Mr. Paulson. Great to have you here, and he's been leading the Chris Christie campaign. Thank you, and it's wonderful to have your governor here, because friends support friends.
Well, thank you so very much, and thank you for what an outstanding welcome to West Des Moines. This is fantastic. We have been, I think, from river to river at least once, if not twice, these last 3 days. This is, I believe, the 14th event in 3 days. It has been a blast. We've had crowds like this all over the state. I can tell you, I think the gentleman standing behind me might just be the next president of the United States. I am Craig Paulson, former Speaker of the Iowa House, and more importantly today, I am the chair of the Christie for President campaign here in Iowa, and I am so proud to do it. I've got to meet Governor Christie over the last couple of years, and also the rest of his family, including his lovely wife, Mary Pat. They are an amazing team, and what an honorable family. I will tell you, when Chris Christie tells you something, he means what he says what he means. And if he tells you he's going to do something, you can mark it down as done. And if he tells you he's not going to do something, you can mark it down that he's not going to do it. He's not confused about where he stands, and that's a whole lot different than a few senators that are running for this job. I can tell you he's the right guy to restore confidence in the United States leadership around the world. He's the right guy to lead Congress, as the Congresswoman said, and I will tell you he is absolutely the right guy to prosecute Hillary Clinton in the debates this fall. And with that, it is with great pride and great honor that I get to introduce the governor of the state of Iowa, the longest-serving governor in the history of the United States, Governor Terry Branstad.
Craig Paulson, thank you very much. And I'll tell you, he's one of the best speakers I've ever had the opportunity to work with. You did a great job, and it's been an honor to work with you. Somewhere in this crowd is my wife, Chris, and my daughter-in-law, Adrienne, on the stairway. Adrienne hosted an event for Governor Christie at their home. Anyway, I want to thank you for being here, and thank all of you. This is a great turnout, and I want you to know that Chris Christie is a great friend of mine. I was watching in 2009 when he was elected governor, and you know, he beat an incumbent in a very difficult state. And I guess that was one of the things that kind of inspired me to come back and run for governor again in 2010. And in 2010, we asked Chris Christie and Mary Pat to come, and they did a great event at Hy-Vee Hall for us here. It was a tremendously successful fundraiser on the eve of the election, and we were successful. And then in 2000, and he also came and spoke at the education summit that we had that helped us develop our plan for the teacher leadership and compensation program that we're phasing in to improve student achievement in our state. And then he became chair of the Republican Governors Association. And when he became chair of the Republican Governors Association, I met with him and I said, Governor Christie, help us early, you won't have to worry about us late. And he did. He helped us pick up states that nobody thought we could win, like Illinois and Massachusetts and Maryland. He's a great team player. He's a great personal friend, and I'm very proud to introduce Governor Chris Christie from New Jersey.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First, I want to thank Congresswoman Brooks. She's right. We've known each other for 14 years now, and we work to keep this country safe together. And man, if we had 434 other people in Congress like Susan Brooks, this country would be a hell of a lot better off, everybody. Thank you, Susan. I want to thank Speaker Paulson and his wife, Kathy. They have traveled the entire state of Iowa with me and Mary Pat the last 4 days, from Dubuque to Sioux City and everywhere in between. I couldn't have asked for a better and more loyal supporter, a better chairman of this campaign, and I want to thank he and Kathy not only for their support in this campaign, but for their personal friendship. We love them both. Craig, thank you very much. Now, let me talk about this guy for a second, all right? He talks about me coming in 2010 for him. Let me tell you what it was like on the receiving end of that phone call. 2010, when Governor Terry Branstad calls you, he's running again for governor after having taken 12 years off. He's coming back to take this state back. You all remember him, Big Dad Chet, right? And he's coming to take it back. And he calls me. I've been governor for 8 months. And 8 months. And I get a phone call. My secretary comes in, and she said, Governor, it's Governor Terry Branstad on the phone. And I said, from Iowa? And they said, she says, yes. And I said, Governor Branstad doesn't know me. She goes, well, he's on the phone. Now, you got to understand something. I mean, Terry Branstad, he's a legend. He's calling me. I'm a brand new governor from New Jersey. What's Terry Branstad calling me for? I got on the phone. We spoke for a couple of minutes, and he said, I really would love you to come out and meet people in Iowa and help me raise some money. We need to put some money together to finish off Big Debt Chet. He's not your kind of guy. I'm your kind of guy. How about you come out? And I said, you're darn right I'll come out for Terry Branstad. Mary Pat and I both came out. We had a great night. 1,000 people turned out that night to listen to Governor Branstad and me talk about the future of Iowa. And we had a great time. He won that election. And in 2014, you bet I was standing next to him, standing with him, because the people of Iowa deserve the kind of honesty and integrity, fiscal conservatism, and smart government that Terry Branstad has always provided the people of this state. So I'm proud to have stood with him in 2010. I'm proud to have stood with him in 2014. He is the longest serving and the best Republican governor in America, and you are lucky to have him. And he's also a fun guy, too. So I knew if I was going to invite Terry Branstad to come to any event for me, I thought having Terry Branstad come to a pub like this, he knew he'd show up. Because he's a fun guy, too, and he's a guy to have a good time with, and that's what Iowans know. I am thrilled that he's standing next to me today. I'm thrilled that he came here to introduce me. I'm thrilled that he called me my friend. He's my friend. I'm his friend. I'm happy to have his help, and I'll tell you what else. I can't wait to get into the White House, pick up the phone, call Terry Branstad and say, Terry, help me fix America the way you fixed Iowa. We're going to do it together. I think that was just Mrs. Branstad who fell off the stairs there when I said I was going to ask Terry to come to Washington, D.C. to help me out. Don't worry, Chris, we'll talk about it. It'll be okay. All right, now. You got me, you got Craig Paulson, you got Terry Branstad, Congresswoman Brooks. This is important time now. You know, here's the good news for everybody in Iowa. In 24 hours, you're going to be rid of us. All right? We're going to be off your TV sets. We're going to be out of your mailboxes. And get ready for this. We're going to be off your telephones, too. How happy are you going to be about that? And I have to tell you, is it as disturbing to you as it is to me that there's a big head of me right behind me? I turned around, I got so scared, I thought I was going to drop the microphone. The regular head's enough, man. The big head gets to be too much. Well, you know, of course, you know who inspired us to get those big heads? It's Branstad, right? You've seen those big heads of Terry Branstad. That's my favorite memento from the 2014 campaign. I snuck out of Iowa, out of Lee County. He never saw me take it. I stole it. I got to admit it now. I got a Terry Branstad head at home. I look at it every once in a while for inspiration. So we're going to be out of your hair come tomorrow, at least until August. Then we'll be back as the Republican nominee, working hard to win the swing state of Iowa, to make sure that the Republican Party is restored to the White House and sanity is restored to the United States of America. I want to tell you, I enjoyed the debate the other night. I hope you did too. I enjoyed being up there, and I have to tell you, well, here's the key moment from the debate the other night, at least to me. It was when we talked about immigration. And it's not because immigration was the most important issue discussed in the debate that night. Lots of important issues were discussed. But it tells you everything you need to know about the difference of the candidates in this race. Remember that time? Megyn Kelly asked the first question to Marco Rubio. And when she addressed Marco, she played some videotape. Do you remember? In 2010, they had Marco running for the Senate. And Marco was saying, I'm against amnesty, and I'm against legalization for people who are here illegally. Okay? Then they showed Marco in 2013 with his arm around Chuck Schumer, saying he was for amnesty and for legalization, and he was the sponsor of the bill. And then they showed Marco in 2015. He said, I'm against amnesty and I'm against legalization. Then they turned to old Ted Cruz, Terry Branstad's favorite guy. Old Ted Cruz. Yeah, let me tell you. You know, that's a bad day in Iowa, isn't it? Like when you're standing up somewhere, poor Ted was somewhere in Iowa, and all of a sudden someone got some aid comes up, because this is the way it happens to you. So then they put old Ted on the stage, and they got Ted from 2012 when he's running for the Senate. Ted saying, I'm against amnesty and I'm against legalization. Then they showed Ted in 2013 when he's in the Senate saying, you know, if Marco had just changed his bill from amnesty to legalization, I'd be for it. I want it to pass. Then they showed Ted in 2015 saying, no amnesty, no legalization. And then they stop and say to those two guys, please explain this. Now, I thought this is the layup of the century, right? This isn't fair. They're just going to look into the camera to the American people right there, like that camera right there, and they're going to say, I changed my mind. Right, because that's obviously what they did, right? Everybody was watching. They obviously changed their mind. Marco changed it a couple of times, but nonetheless, they changed their mind. It's okay to change your mind in American politics. It's okay for any adult to change their mind. You're a thinking, breathing human being. You can change your mind. But you know what happened to them? Sorry, Susan, I have to say this. You know what happened to them? All of a sudden, they started to think they were back in Washington, D.C. again. They got disoriented. They didn't know what to do. And so they started to talk like they were from Washington, twisting themselves into a pretzel, a human pretzel, to try to convince you that what you just saw you didn't see and what you just heard you didn't hear. They were saying, Marco's like, I didn't change my position, I didn't change my position. My position's always been consistent. Cruz is like, your position hasn't been consistent, but mine's been. And then Rand Paul says, neither one of you are consistent. And then Jeb Bush says, that's right, neither one of you are consistent. I'm standing there saying, I can't imagine the poor people at home watching this garbage. I can't imagine. So I finally had to do what Branstad and I do all the time as governors. Clean up the mess that Washington, D.C. makes. So I interrupted and I said, listen, I know what the audience at home feels like. They feel like me. They need a Washington to English dictionary converter. Right? You all know what happened, but here's why it was the most important part of the debate. You think I'm going to say it's because Cruz flip-flopped or that Rubio flip-flop-flipped. No. Try to say that, by the way, without getting yourself in trouble on national television. That's not easy. No, that's not the problem. The problem is they wouldn't tell you the truth. They tried to pull the wool over your eyes on national television in front of 12.5 million people. They tried to convince you that what you saw you didn't see and what you heard you didn't hear. And you know what? We've had enough of that in Washington, D.C. They want to keep doing that in the United States Senate. Let them stay there. We do not need either one of them in the White House, everybody. See, what Governor Branstad and I understand is that's the difference between senators and governors. You know, when there's an ice storm in Iowa, he can't say, no, 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 go on out. There's no ice there. You'll be fine. What they expect is that he's going to get the roads cleared and the power turned back on and get people safe and back in their homes and back in their schools. When there's an education crisis in Iowa, he can't say, I'm going to refer the bill back to the subcommittee for amendment. They expect Terry Branstad to stand up and make Iowa schools better for Iowa kids so they can compete anywhere in the world for any job they want to get. When there's a crisis in Iowa regarding public health, he didn't take a step backwards and say, I'll write a bill and we'll see what happens. He stepped forward to put forward a plan to make Iowa the healthiest state in America. See, that's what you expect from governors. We do things. We don't talk about things. We do things. We get things done. That's the difference between a senator and a governor. And that's the same thing, the very same thing I've done in New Jersey. Balanced budgets, cut taxes, cut spending. 10,000 fewer employees than the day I walked in on the job. And when Hurricane Sandy hit, I didn't look for somebody else to fix our problems. When 355,000 homes were destroyed in 24 hours, I knew it was my job to rebuild the state of New Jersey for the people who elected me. And I didn't blame it on anybody else, and I didn't look for anybody else to fix our problems. We as New Jerseyans came together and fixed our problems together. That's what governors do. We bring people together and we lead. That's the difference. Now listen, 7 years ago we made a huge mistake. We elected a first-term United States senator to the presidency of the United States, somebody who had never managed anything more than a 30-person Senate staff and never had made a decision of consequence that they were going to be held accountable for, where people's lives were on the line. And we put him. We wondered why the government got so messed up. We shouldn't wonder. And we shouldn't make the same mistake again. First-term senators give good speeches. They talk for a living, everybody. That's what they do. And you know, it's kind of struck me that being in the United States Senate is kind of like being in grade school. No, think about it now, okay? In grade school, they tell you when you have to show up for school. In the United States Senate, they tell you when you have to show up. In grade school, when you get there, they tell you what seat you need to sit in. In the United States Senate, when you get there, they tell you what seat you need to sit in. In grade school, they give you the list of questions you have to study so you can answer them correctly. In the United States Senate, they give you the list of the issues you have to deal with every day so you know whether to vote yes or no. You know, in grade school, they tell you when recess is. In the United States Senate, they tell you when recess is. In grade school, they tell you when summer vacation starts so you can joyously run away from your responsibilities and go home to convince your parents that the year you just had was better than the one you actually had. In the United States Senate, they send them home for summer vacation to come see us to tell them that they've actually accomplished something when we know they haven't done a damn thing for the entire year. It's just like grade school being the United States Senate. Now here's the thing. Being president is nothing like that. And neither is being governor. See, when you're governor, you never know what's going to come across your desk. They don't give you a list of issues you got to deal with. They come in the door when they come. And there's not yes or no answers. There's complicated answers, difficult answers. People's lives are on the line. People's families are counting on you. And you got to be held accountable. There's no one else you can blame. You have the responsibility on your shoulders. And you know that your judgments have consequences. They're not just a vote on a piece of paper. Every one of them has consequences for the people who elected you. We cannot make the same mistake again, everybody. Do not send another first-term United States Senator, no matter how good a speech they give, no matter how good a speech they can memorize and spit back to you in 60 or 90 seconds, no matter how pretty they look. It don't matter. I'm telling you. We've seen it with Barack Obama. We've seen it for the last 7 years. He has failed us, and we cannot make the same mistake again because America will not be able to survive another failed presidency. And I'll tell you exactly why and how I end up tonight, telling you why this is so important. 2 days ago, Mary Pat and I were in Burlington, Iowa. And we were doing a town hall meeting. And I was taking questions as I normally do. I've now taken over 1,000 questions in this campaign. Over 1,000 questions in town hall meetings across Iowa and New Hampshire. And this gentleman stood up, he raised his hand, and he said, "Governor, I need to ask you what your vision is for being commander-in-chief." He said, "Because my wife and I, in 4 months, are sending our son to Iraq, and we want to know." And I was so focused on listening to him, when he got done with this question, I turned and looked to his left, and his wife was sitting next to him, and she was in tears. And at that moment, everybody, I stopped being a candidate for president, and I started to be a father. See, Mary Pat and I have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, 22 and 19, 15 and 12. And I was putting myself into that woman's heart. And I know what she was thinking. The most precious thing in her life, this child that she's nurtured from the time he was in the womb, through infancy and childhood, through young adulthood, she was now handing him over. The most precious thing in her life. She was handing him over to our country to put him in harm's way, to fight for our values and principles around the world. And I know that feeling has to be overwhelming for that mother and father. The worry they're going to have every minute he's away is going to be overwhelming. And for any parent in this country whose son or daughter goes to war for us, what they want to know is, will the commander-in-chief take care of their child? Will the commander-in-chief understand the nature of their sacrifice? And will the commander-in-chief make the kind of decisions that defines the mission for their child and then backs up that child so they can come home safely after performing that mission successfully? There were 3 veterans sitting in that room in that same town hall meeting. They had hats on. One said World War II veteran. One said Korea veteran. One said Iraqi freedom veteran. And as I looked at their hats and I was beginning to answer this gentleman's question, what I was thinking was this. Think about the men who send them into war. Franklin Roosevelt and Harry Truman. Harry Truman and Dwight Eisenhower. And George W. Bush. Put aside your politics and whether you agreed or disagreed with everything or anything that those presidents did. We could all agree that those were men of honor and dignity and wisdom and seriousness who took the job of commander-in-chief seriously and understood their responsibility for the people that they sent into battle for our country. So here's what I want you to do tomorrow, because this is what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. When the caucuses start, I want you to think of that mother and father. I want you to pretend that that mother and father are standing on either side of you when you're getting ready to mark your ballot. And I want you to think, if you could say out loud to that mother and father, I truly believe that, fill in the blank, whoever you're voting for, is the best person to be commander-in-chief, that he'll make our country proud and he'll take care of your son. See, because that's what this election is about. That's what it's about. Now, it's been an entertaining election, believe me. I've been entertained myself. I've been on that stage, everybody. There's been stuff said and things done that I never thought I'd see in my entire life. And I have laughed at times as hard as you have. But showtime is over. Showtime is over. It's game time. And when it's game time, you have to have real players on the field to win. We're not electing the entertainer-in-chief. We're electing the commander-in-chief. And I know you're angry at Washington, D.C., and you have every right to be, and so am I. But that anger cannot manifest itself in putting in the position of commander-in-chief someone who you couldn't look in the eye of those parents and tell them that'll be a good commander-in-chief. It's not a good enough excuse for you to say to those parents, I'm voting for someone who won't be a good commander-in-chief, but hell, I'm angry, and that's why I'm voting for this person. That's not good enough. That's a betrayal to that family. And nobody in Iowa wants to betray that family. That family's making the ultimate sacrifice that any family can make. And what we owe them in return tomorrow night is for you to think of them. Not how angry you are at Washington, not how funny somebody is, not how rich somebody is. None of that. What you got to think about tomorrow night is who's the most tested, mature, prepared person to be the commander-in-chief of the United States and to care for their son and the sons and daughters of everyone else that we send into this conflict to fight the war on terror, to preserve our values and our principles both here at home and around the world. I offer myself to you as President of the United States because I know I'm ready. You know I've been tested. I am mature. I've faced the challenges. I've stood up to them. I've had good days and I've had bad days, and I've survived through every one of them because I know who I am. I know how to make decisions, and I am unafraid to lead. I am ready to be that family's commander-in-chief, and I need you to help me make it happen. And so, comedy show is over. Fun time is done. It is time to elect the leader of the free world. And we have never needed it more than we need it now. There has been 7 years of a lack of American leadership. And one more thing. We can't get to the White House unless we go through Hillary Rodham Clinton. Now listen, this is the most significant democratic political machine that we have seen in this country in the last 60 years. And they are in their final political battle to win back power. They will stop at nothing to win back the White House. We can't be that family's commander-in-chief until we win that election in November. Who do you want standing on that stage in September across from Hillary Clinton? Who do you think is tough enough to look her in the eye and not take an ounce of the lying and the deceit and the absolute disloyalty that she has shown to the American people. Who's strong enough to call her out on it? And as the speaker said, someone needs to prosecute the case against Hillary Clinton. How about a former federal prosecutor prosecuting the case against Hillary Clinton? I mean, damn, she spent most of the last year trying to avoid federal prosecutors. We can't let her avoid them next September on that stage. I will be ready to take her on, and I can guarantee you one thing. She looked at that stage on Thursday night. She went from one end of that road to the other. Believe me, I'm the last person she wants to see on that stage, because she knows I've been tortured by the New York Times and the New York media market. She knows that I'm the one who's most ready to take her on and to call her out on all the things that she has done to deceive this country. She's put our national security at risk. She's put the lives of our intelligence officers at risk because she wanted a server in her own basement to hide things from the American people. Well, when you run for president of the United States, you cannot run and you cannot hide. If you have me chasing you, put me on the field to chase her, and I will chase her down. So it all starts tomorrow night in Iowa. You're like, wait a second, it's been going on for a year. It just starts? No, it all starts tomorrow night in Iowa. The real game gets going. I can't tell you how happy I am to have spent so much time here in Iowa over the last number of months. It has been an enormous gift to come back here and spend time with all of you, and you all are a gift to American democracy. For the last year, you've come to town hall meetings and listened to us. You've worked with us. You've asked us questions. You've challenged us. You've made us better candidates, and you've made us better people by the experience, and you've made me a better president when I become president because of going through this experience and getting to know all of you. I can't tell you how much America is in your debt for spending the time you've spent vetting these candidates and now making your choice tomorrow night. As long as you make that choice tomorrow night with that mother and father in mind, I'm happy to be governed by whatever your decision is. But just remember this. This is the greatest country the world has ever known, the absolute greatest country the world's ever known. And it deserves a president who understands that, believes it, and will be the personification not only of our greatness, but of your goodness. I'm ready to be that president for you. Thank you for coming to West Des Moines tonight, and thank you to Governor Branstad for being here as well. Thank you all very much.